So visual support strategies. I want to talk about this because it's one of the things that can kind of be universally applied. It's not going to hurt anybody, right? So if you apply a visual strategy and it's the wrong kind of visual or your child doesn't really need it, it's not going to hurt anything to use some visuals, right? And oftentimes, using visual support strategies are really, really helpful in terms of preventing problem behavior, or even if you've got a situation where your child is engaging in some sort of milder behaviors, they're annoying, but they're relatively mild. You can put some visual support strategies in place and often deal with a lot of those just by providing some good information that's accessible to your child. So, in terms of visual support strategies and why we use them, first of all, particularly if we're thinking about individuals with autism, they take advantage of their relative strengths in visual processing, okay? And so for people who are autistic, to say that they're stronger visually across the board, that's not true, because there is no one anything for anybody, autistic or not. But certainly, visual processing does tend to be a strength, okay? So we want to try and take advantage of those strengths. A lot of times the blah, 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 blah that we do is not very helpful, okay? So providing information visually, I can take as much time to look at it as I need to understand it, okay? Visuals can compensate for challenges in processing or understanding speech and also sign language. So I worked at the BC School for the Deaf, and I taught a number of deaf kids with autism, and they were deaf kids that had been identified early, that had gone to deaf preschools, their parents learned to sign, they had deaf people in their homes, and just like lots of young hearing kids with autism, these deaf kids with autism were not acquiring sign language, and they didn't seem to understand signing. And so people always think, oh, but signing is visual because you see it. And while yes, it is visual, it's visual but transient. So just like the words come out of my mouth and you could hear the words as they come out of my mouth, but then they're gone, signs come off my hand and they're gone as soon as I sign them. So if you don't process information quickly, you miss it. It's out there and it's gone. I say it and it's gone. And so for lots of people with autism, the information's out in the air and then it's gone. And if they process more slowly, if they need more time, it's not like they can reach in the air and grab that back. So that's a problem, right? So visual supports can compensate for that. We can use visual supports to make things more predictable. And for kids, generally, life is not very predictable, right? For all kids, disabilities, kids without disabilities, doesn't matter. Adults are making all the decisions. Adults are managing everything. Adults are the ones who decide when it's time to do this, that, or the other, and kids kind of have to go along with. For lots of our kids, it's not very predictable for them what's going to happen next, when it's going to happen, why one thing happens on one day but not another. So there's lots of unpredictability. And again, just think about where we're at right now in terms of our own lives with the pandemic. Things are very unpredictable for most of us. And the more unpredictability there is, the more stressed we are, the more anxious we are, the more challenges we're experiencing in our day-to-day lives. So imagine your kids who have difficulty understanding what people are telling them. They don't understand what's happening in their day. They don't know when things are happening. So they're living with this stress all the time, right? And there's kind of no end in sight. And so if we can provide them with information that helps make their lives more predictable, then they're less likely to be experiencing such high levels of stress. We can use visual support strategies to help people understand expectations. So again, it's kind of like this kid with the bath routine. I mean, as soon as we put it down on paper and he understood what the expectations were and what the outcomes would be, he was like, okay, that's fine, right? And I've had other kids where it's been the same kind of thing. I put a visual schedule down in front of them and they're like, where has this been all my life, right? Why have you not given me this before? Of course I'll do what you ask, okay? I had a little girl that I supported at the School for the Deaf many years ago because she's almost 30. But when she was little, she didn't understand sign language and she had just started to sign a few words on her own, right? She could ask to go to the bathroom. She could ask for a couple of preferred items. That was about it. And she was in classroom. She was in a grade 2 class. And the routine was that they came to circle in the morning. They did a little circle thing. And then all of the kids got a little calendar worksheet, right, where they traced the day of the week and the weather and whatnot, right? So she had her worksheet and she'd go sit at her table. And by this point, she'd learned that the rule is you can't move on to something else until you've finished what you're doing. And that was a hard and fast rule. She was also a perfectionist. So if she was printing something out, all her lines had to be very straight, perfectly rounded, right? Like everything had to look just right. But a couple of days a week, this class had gym at 9:30. And so she'd get her worksheet at 9:10. She'd start working on it, but she wouldn't be done at 9:30. Teacher, deaf classroom, would flash the lights to let all the kids know it's time to line up, we're going to gym. And she wouldn't get up because her worksheet wasn't done. And so her aide would go over to her and say, oh, it's time for gym, let's go. And she loved gym. Well, when we told her it's time for gym, let's go, she'd freak out, screaming and crying, and I'm not getting in that line, and I have to do my work, this whole like deal, right? So the teacher and the aide come down to me, we've got a problem, right? And I said, well, where's the schedule? Well, there isn't one. Well, let's give her one. And so we made a schedule, and for her, she couldn't tell time yet, but she could match. And all the classes had analog clocks in the classroom. So we put clock faces in her schedule, and we showed her 9 o'clock, calendar and worksheet, 9:30 gym. And so when it was 9:30, instead of her aide coming over and saying, it's time for gym, let's go, her aide came over and initially even had just a small clock, so it was right next to her schedule, and went, look at the clock, and then pointed to her schedule and went, they're the same. And she looks, I kid you not, first day, looks and goes, same, puts her work down, stands up, lines up, goes to gym. Was never an issue. It was like word of God, right? If it's on the schedule, I will do it. And so if you think about it, right, lots of our kids just don't know what's happening, when it's happening, why it's happening, what the expectations are. And these adults kind of come in and interrupt them at the last minute with, it's time to do such and such. What? It's time for what? Why? Most days the rule is I have to finish my work. Today you're saying I don't have to and I'm supposed to line up. That doesn't make sense, right? If we can provide that information, we can prevent a lot of problems, okay? We can help individuals understand the steps of a task. So that's the other nice thing about visual supports. What are the little pieces? So brushing teeth, for example, step 1, 2, 3, 4. How long does something last? Like I have to sit and do homework for how long? Or I have to brush my teeth. I'm working with a kid on toothbrushing. 2 minutes, and that's how long, right? A lot of us have been working on how long do I have to wash my hands for? And we've had little supports to help us with that. Even the adults, okay? So providing those kinds of things for kids. We can also use visual supports to give information about social rules and expectations, right? What it is that in this environment or in this situation is kind of the expected behavior. This is what you should do here. And then finally, we can use visual supports to organize the environment, help individuals know where things are supposed to go, where to find things, where to put things away, stuff like that.